Welcome back. Another episode of a Harlequins podcast. 2 Woods and 4 quarters. My name's Michael, and as always, I'm sat here with my cousin Will. What a whirlwind, mate. How's things?
Yeah, it certainly was. I'm feeling the effects of it today after a few beers, watching Quins absolutely demolish Gloucester, and then the day continued into Six Nations, topped off with France beating Wales in the 82nd minute. So that definitely deserved a few beers, but
Yeah,
I'm very good
that.
now.
Thoroughly enjoyed that.
Yeah, I think we all did, didn't we? How are you, mate? How are you getting on?
Yeah, not bad. Wind out my sails a little bit again. I mean, obviously, it turned out to be a pretty good win in the end, but yeah, another one for the emotions. It's killing me a little bit these last few weeks. I'm going through the ringer, but no, all good, and we've got plenty to talk about, and we'll dive straight into the news. And the most important thing, I think, obviously this week, there's a couple of really amazing bits of news for the club. But on a contract front, Simon Kerrod, new signing, or contract renewal, I should say. Thoughts?
Yeah, definitely an important thing. Don't know if it's the most important thing, as we'll get on to COVID and vaccination shortly.
Yeah.
From a health point of view, I'd say that's more important. But from a club rugby point of view, Simon Kerrod extending his time with us is a great bit of business. We've talked about the depth in our front row, and he actually was part of a starting front row against Gloucester. And that was perhaps an area I looked at as probably the weakest part of our team, because we had our back line is incredible. Our back row was at full strength. So I looked at that as potentially our weakest part of our team, but they're outstanding. We're really solid there. They've got some great company with them in Wilco and Marla, sort of tutoring them day in, day out at the club. So very good to get him to put pen to paper and extend with us.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he was obviously not that long ago involved in some England training camps and stuff like that. And yeah, no, great signing again. I mean, I think they even said it on the Harlequins Instagram. He's a bit of an everywhere man. He's very dynamic, and
yes,
along with there's not many better scrummaging tight heads in the world to learn off than Adam Jones. So he's definitely in the right place, and hopefully, another great signing, another sort of place to build our squad from.
Definitely.
Pretty happy
he's one of those prop forwards that really fits the mold of the way we play, isn't he? He's very mobile, gets around the pitch, good handling skills as well. I've noticed Joe Marler's handling has got better and better. I don't know if that's the influence of having the younger players coming through like Smith and Donbrandt, who are naturally very good ball players, and whether that's rubbing off on other people, but there seems to be a bit of an offload culture going on in our squad at the minute, and even the props are buying into that, and he's another one that is definitely a Harlequins prop.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely agree, mate. Absolutely. And then the other sort of little bit of rugby news we had before we move on to something more important was Scott Steele started for Scotland at the weekend and got himself a try. Always nice to see. And obviously Scott signed a new contract not that long ago. So no, great. Good to see people putting pen to paper. Good to see us building a squad, and 2 guys that we're definitely excited to have as part of the squad for the next however long their contract is. No, really good to see. Maybe the more important piece of news that's come out of the club this week is that an amazing effort for all those involved. The stoop have been filled with vaccinations, 14,816 vaccinations down at the stoop, which is phenomenal effort, and can't really say much more about it. What an effort for everyone involved, and obviously that's nothing that's on a rugby front, but as a club front and on a personal front, and getting people vaccinated, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, fantastic. So just touching on both of those points there as well, I feel an element of pride seeing Scott still go out for Scotland. Although I'm an England fan, England born and bred, there is an element of pride going and seeing your club players go and represent their country and doing it so well, particularly with this try. So huge congrats to Scott. But then talking about pride again, having a club that's really at the core of its community, and supporting in sort of a global health crisis and doing everything we can to try and bring some normality to our lives again is massive, and that achievement is fantastic, and they're just going to keep going up and up with those numbers, which is brilliant to see. A lot of fans I've noticed have either been having their vaccinations at the stoop, which I think is quite a cool thing to be able to say, or if they haven't, they'd love to be able to do it, although it may not be the most local one, which could rule it out. But yeah, for me as well, I don't think it'll be my local one being based in Clapham Common, but I think it'd be pretty cool to go down to the stoop to get your vaccination.
I might have a sniff. I'm not sure. We're obviously as mid-20-year-olds, we're probably a little bit lower down the pecking order. But I'd like to have my vaccine given at the stoop. We'll see. Hopefully, the next filling of the stoop we do will be with some fans. If these vaccinations keep rolling on. But no, great.
Me and my mates were saying the quickest way to vaccinate everyone is to to get it in the pubs?
Oh, I said this.
Get a vaccination with your pint.
I said this
Can
weeks ago.
they do it in liquid form? Just drink it in your pint.
I said this weeks ago. If it was a prerequisite of going to the pub with a 28-day period in between that you've got to go to a pub and have a drink to get your vaccine, we've done it in 2 weeks.
Everyone be vaccinated by now.
But absolutely brilliant. And then obviously we've got 2 games yesterday and two massive wins. The Harlequins women team.
Yeah, tries galore.
I mean, we'll move on to the men's in a minute, but our amazing women's team just keep rolling on. 62-7 winners down in Bristol yesterday. I hope that's a good omen for when we go down to Ashton Gate next week. But there was some huge like try scoring lists. I was trying to read them all off and read the match report yesterday, and I could barely keep my head around it. Some little things that I had was Vicky Cornbury and Sarah Beckett back in the squad as well, 2 England internationals. Pretty cool to be able to give, after a bit of injury, you can get them back in the squad. And then good to see Izzy getting another start, friend of the show, and obviously Jess on the wing again, running in tries. You know, seasons come and go, rain or shine, but some things never change, and Jess Breach running in tries is definitely one of those.
Yeah, death, taxes, and Jess Breach scoring a try.
Yeah,
all guarantees in life. But yeah, no, great to see Izzy get another start. She actually got her intercept try against the Bears in the reverse fixture at the Stoop earlier in the season, so good to see her get another shot. And as you say, Vicky Cornbury and Sarah Beckett coming back in, our pack looks incredibly strong. I know there were a few missing, like I think Shauna Brown was out. I'm not sure if that's through injury. And of course, Rachel Burford's out for injury. So there's a few stars missing from that lineup, and yet it's still so incredibly strong.
Did see Rachel Burford on Instagram doing a little bit of training, I saw, I think a couple of days ago. So fingers crossed, whatever injury she's nursing through is on the mend.
Yeah, well, she's timing it right, isn't she? As we sort of hit the home straight of the season now. We've got Saracens away next week, who've just come off the back of a good win at the Chiefs, actually. Exeter, we went down to a couple of weeks ago, and they just pipped us in that one. So for Saris to come from behind and win that contest is a good statement to make. And playing them next week at their place, it's going to be a good test for us. Clash of the Titans. Obviously, Quinn Saris is always a mammoth contest, a bit of a derby. And then you look at where they are in the table, 1 and 2. It couldn't get any bigger than that. So it'll be a great trial run for what is probably odds on to be the actual final come May, June time. So really looking forward to watching that one.
Yeah, I think it might be a while before we see Saracens and Harlequins and the men fighting it out at the top of the Premiership. We'll have to hopefully won't see.
We'll be there though.
Yeah, we'll be there. Hopefully, we'll definitely get our kicks out of watching the women go down and pump Sarries next week. Fingers crossed, and keep rolling on to a home semi-final. But yeah, obviously it was a brilliant win. And then, I mean, I don't even know where to begin with the men's yesterday. I mean, again, I think I said it when we had Lewis on last week. The wind was completely knocked out of my sails last week down at Exeter, and it almost felt the same during the Gloucester game yesterday. I mean, I was saying to everyone else, when I watch the games, obviously we now do the podcast, I try and make some notes and keep it sort of structured, so at least I know what I'm talking about when the game comes and I don't miss anything. But yesterday I gave up after about 15 minutes. I couldn't keep up.
Too.
I was completely binned in. I thought, look, just try and watch it.
Just enjoy it, and it was so good to watch. It was really enjoyable, and I think if there were a lot of neutral fans watching it, they'd have enjoyed it too. Mainly from our point of view, slightly frustrating throwing away a 24 point lead and them drawing level sort of out of nowhere. Really, they crept up on us, but blistering start from the boys. We're running in tries left, right, and centre all over the park, offloads galore. It was great to watch, and within that first 20 minutes or so, I was like, God, we're gonna really humiliate them here. I cannot remember the last time I've seen a Quins team humiliate another rugby team. So I was watching it with fascination, but also I was so alien to it. I think is the way I describe it. I didn't know how to feel. I was like, this is great. Do I get carried away? Imagine having a team that plays like this every single week. We're actually going to get that, I think. That's how we play rugby. I know Gloucester are down the bottom of the table, but
tough to see them doing poorly though. Gloucester, I've got a little soft spot for Gloucester, and they're a great side. So hopefully they'll turn it around. But I mean, I looked at some of the key matchups yesterday. At number 8, Ben Morgan, obviously next England international. He had a pretty good little spell with England a few years ago, and Alex Donbrad, hopefully a future England international at number 8. 2 massive inside centres with Banahan and Andre Esterhazy. I was looking forward to watching that one, and then even like a little sort of side one was Charlie Sharples and Mike Brown both playing at fullback. Again, both had their time with England with varying degrees of success, but there were definitely some little understories, little sidetrack stories to watching the game. But I mean, we mentioned it on WhatsApp during the game. We missed him last week. Andre Esterhazy is well, fill in the blank with whatever superlative you want. Like, I don't know what to say.
Insert superlative.
Yeah, like it's just outrageous, and he does everything. And then Luke Northmore, I mean, obviously started at 13 yesterday in Joe Marchant's absence, but he did a fantastic audition as an understudy for that 13 spot. I mean, I was unbelievably impressed with him, and I actually really like Luke Northmore. Obviously coming out of Cardiff Met with Domers, I think he's been brilliant since he's come to the club. Obviously had a couple of injuries in the early part of his time with us, but yeah, him and Andre yesterday were absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, insert superlative for both of them. I've got to try and keep my composure here because I've got so much to say on both of them. I want to make sure it comes out right. But Andre Esterhuizen is just, for such a big man, people often see him as like this wrecking ball. His finesse. He's got a lot of finesse about him. He's real classy. And classy is the word I'm going to use to describe Luke Northmore as well. He glides through defenders. Like he's sort of, I saw the Quins account put out a tweet saying snake hips, and that sums him up perfectly. He's a real classy outside centre, just seems to quietly make a difference. Line breaks, offloads. We've seen him offload time and time again when he set up Brett Heron a couple of weeks ago at the Stoop to get the bonus point against Saints. So he's got it all in the locker. He's going to have a real tough battle with Marchant trying to dislodge him from that 13 shirt, but that's the kind of competition we love. That's the kind of competition that gets you into playoffs, and who knows, maybe even a final.
I think the way you mentioned that snake hips, obviously that came out of the club. If you compare that to someone like Tyrone Green, who's such a ball of energy, and the way he runs is so, oh God, it looks like he's going to explode whenever he gets the ball in hand. But yeah, Luke Northmore glides, doesn't he? He's so free with his running, and
real classy.
Maybe Andre's the South African Sonny Bill, big inside centre. He's obviously a bit more of a kicking option left foot. We see a bit of him kicking out of hand. But yeah, the offloads, the tackles, his work around the park. Obviously, Lewis Liner gave us a little glimpse of his game whenever it was a couple of weeks ago when he busted his nose and played out the rest of the game. And, just what a mark of the man. And, huge congratulations to him with a new child just recently been born. So, like I say, missed him last week extra. But yeah, my God, he made up for it. This week.
Yeah, for sure. He's playing the best rugby I've seen him play, without a doubt. And actually, that signing at the time, I was like, oh, he's a good signing. South African international. Yeah. Haven't seen too much of him. Started playing a few games for us. Didn't really make too much of an impact on the pitch. He was just a solid player. But every week now, he's a game changer. He's like noticeable difference. He's busting the tackles. He's putting in shots as well. He's brilliant in defence. And I want to talk to you in a minute about Danny Kerr and Mike Brown. Potential international conversation, but not just for England, for Lions. So I'll come on to that in a minute, because the first thing I want to talk about is still to do with the Lions, but it's Andre Esterhuizen. I think he's got a real shot of starting for South Africa against the Lions. I know Dialende is their 12, and he's up in Munster at the minute, and obviously we played Munster earlier in the season, and I thought he was reasonably vacant. Didn't see too much of him against us.
Especially if the tour might end up on English shores. You could do worse than looking at someone who's charging around in South London.
Been playing here week in, week out. Yeah, he's that giant in the midfield that just causes absolute mayhem for the opposition. And I think that was the signing that Jamie Roberts was supposed to be, but we obviously got him in the twilight of his career. I think Andre's in the peak of his, and he's just causing absolute havoc. I could really see him staging a fight for that 12 shirt for South Africa. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting when you talk about the signings. It's probably almost the same with Wilco. When we found out about them coming, it's like, okay, really cool. South African international. You see the size of them, sort of physically. The quality of the rugby that they play in the Southern Hemisphere. You think, oh, that's pretty cool. And we didn't probably see the best of them in the first few months of their deals. We all know why, with COVID and blah blah blah. But I mean, yesterday when Wilco, Marler, and Baldwin came on the field, the dynamic of it sort of changed. We looked like we had a lot more control, and even in the middle of the park with the hands, like they're all capable of playing the ball out the back to 10 and 12. And Andre certainly, he's so good, and he's given us a different edge. The other person I want to talk about yesterday, and there's actually two of them. I was very impressed with Aaron Morris's commentary on the game yesterday. I actually think the way he spoke about the game was really, really cool. Obviously had a bit of a dodgy knock last couple of weeks, so good to see him sort of fit and healthy, and hopefully he gets back out there soon. And then the second one I want to talk about, obviously another South African. We obviously missed our captain Steph Louise yesterday, but I was very, very impressed with Dino Lamb. His work across the park yesterday, I thought it was brilliant. Line out steals, carried well, and even Aaron Morris on commentary said that he's a pretty credible athlete. So yeah, that's great. What were your thoughts on him?
I think we put him in the right environment. The front row were relatively fresh as well, so it wasn't like it was all eyeballs on him. It wasn't the pressure for him to deliver. But then he was alongside Matt Simons as well. So
Yeah.
if you want Premiership stalwart next to you, you want him, right? He's
100%.
been there, done it. He's going to keep you right. And then you've got that flair back row behind you. Like he was put in a great environment to flourish.
Yeah, 100%. It was quite cool actually on commentary. Aaron Mills was giving a bit of stick to Joe Gray with some of his work on the short side, and then he was mentioning Will Evans was struggling. Hadn't got a turnover for the whole game. And in the last 5 minutes, he grabs 2, and Alex Donbrandt as well. Like, I mean, I'm going through the try list yesterday. Luke Northmore 2, Danny Kerr 2, Alex Donbrandt 2, Brown, Merlin Green. It was such a strange game to watch at times because, like you say, the first 15 minutes, I thought, oh my god, we're gonna kill him. Like it'll be could be a cricket score, could be a cricket score, and then almost out of nowhere it's 24, and I'm thinking, oh my word, what the hell is going on here? But something happened in the second half. I don't know what it was, and we ended up running away with it.
Came about.
Yeah, the red card. Yeah, difficult to argue with it. I did feel bad for Banahan, obviously, getting a red card and being sort of conked out at the same time. But I thought the touch of class from him, the way he dealt with that, he was, brilliant. The way he walked off and just went, shook his head.
He's great for the game, isn't he, Banners? But it was a red. Ollie Thorley got a red for a head-on-head tackle a few weeks earlier. So we know that's the law. And actually, I thought Tyrone could have come out of that pretty badly as well. So I think it was the right call. On the Will Evans turnover piece, you can't really turn it over if you've got the ball already. So I don't think that'll affect his stats too badly because it was in the benefit of the game for us anyway. So
true. If I said you're scoring nearly 60 points, you can't be worried about not getting turnovers.
Yeah, exactly. Unless he's ripping it off his teammates. But I'm going to bang the Danny Kerr drum again. I think he's outstanding and he's been brilliant for us week after week for a while now. But he's starting to add tries to his game again. He got 2 at the weekend. Yeah. He got a try the week before.
Yeah.
Eddie Jones is running out of excuses not to pick him other than his age now. I don't think there's a better 9 in England.
I mean, I love him. I love him so much. He's just, I think actually some of the criticism he got maybe a year or so ago, maybe 18 months ago, even 2 years ago, was probably fair because he was probably having a bit of a patchy spell in his form. There were thoughts about whether his career might be coming to an end, but I mean, my God, like what is he or is he not the greatest support runner that the Premiership's ever seen?
Yeah.
Gets on
I also think the criticism he got sort of a year or so ago was his attitude. I feel like he was kind of maybe not focusing more so on the media, but his head wasn't in the game as much as it had been to get him to the level that he's at now. And then since Gustard leaving, you can just see Marler, Kerr, Brown have all stepped up and become those senior figures. It's almost like they're part of the coaching team. They're the coaches that are on the pitch during the game.
And I'm sure they are. I'm sure it is like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know what that is down to. I might even be completely wrong, but it's just what it looks like from the outside. But I feel like Smith coming through, Donbrandt coming through, all of these younger players coming through is almost giving them like a lease of life. It's like, excuse the analogy, but when you've got older dogs and you introduce a puppy into the same household, it brings that older dog to life again. You get the best out of it. Terrible analogy, but that's pretty much how it feels.
But I think though the way that we're playing now, where it's so cliche when it comes to Harlequins, they throw the ball around, but we do throw the ball around and we do play, flair rugby, unstructured rugby. That suits Danny Kerr. That's Danny Kerr's. That is Danny Kerr, isn't it? That's the way he's
encouraged.
That's the way exactly. That's the way he's built his career. And I mean, I'll be honest. I switched off after half time of the England game. I was losing interest a little bit. My emotions were fried after watching Quins, and it just needs something, doesn't it? I mean, I'm not going to start, slating Eddie Jones and blah blah blah, and people can do that. Feel free to do that. I'm not going to jump on that bandwagon. But I mean, Danny Kerr, as long as he keeps this run of form, then I'm pretty happy to watch him do it for as long as he feels like he wants to.
If we're not going to talk about Eddie Jones, then how about we talk about Warren Gatland? Because he has not got the best stable of 9s to pick from in terms of the Lions tour. I think you probably take about 3 or 4 scrum halves with you, don't you? Are there 3 or 4 scrum halves in the UK and Ireland that are better than Danny Kerr? Probably not, but he's not playing for his country. Does that go against him? Maybe. But we know with Gatland, that doesn't always impact his decision. I remember he picked Jamie George as starting hooker when he wasn't even starting for England. I think Danny's in with a shot.
I mean, imagine if we had both of them go. Imagine if Scott Steele and Danny Kerr were playing
cool,
red in the summer. Yeah, do worse, couldn't you? I mean, if you want something,
would you? Am I being biased?
Would I? I do. Maybe I'm a bit of a traditionalist. I do think it's tough to go from the Premiership to a Lions tour, having not played international rugby. It's a big jump.
I agree.
However,
tough for anyone that hasn't been there before, but Danny Kerr has been there before many times.
Literally took the point out of my mouth. It would be tough if somebody hadn't been there and done it for 65, 70, 75 games already for England. I mean, what's he got? 8 caps for England, something like that. Yeah, it would be tough for somebody that hadn't had that, whereas he clearly has got that in the bank. I'd love to see it. I'm sure every other Quins fan would. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I'm going to be biased, but I'd like to think I'm being fair. I'd take him.
Yeah. I just love the way he plays. I love the little kicks in behind. I mean, it was so unfortunate that one down at Exeter last week when Tapai went over that it was called back, because that is so Danny Kerr. And I think some of the times this year, his kicking out of hand has been brilliant. His defensive work rate at times has been amazing this year. He scores 2 tries yesterday. He's near the top 10 tries in all-time history in the Premiership. I mean, let's talk about points as well. Mike Brown, 500 points for the club from fullback. Oh, my word. Brownie, please never, ever leave.
I saw loads of things come out this week that it's confirmed, but obviously unofficial sources, which would be such a shame because Mike Brown was just phenomenal again at the weekend. The way he plays the game now, you can see the composure with Danny as well. Both of them, obviously, they've got bags of experience under their belt, but they're just making all the right decisions. Every single decision they make is at the right time. We had Lewis Liner on the other week, and he was saying the way Mike Brown plays.
Do anything wrong.
If you're going to do anything, do it with 110% because you can make the wrong decision into the right one. But Mike doesn't even have to worry about that in the minute because he just keeps making the right decisions.
Yeah.
I think about the way he straightens up his line in attack to hold a defender. It just creates simple 2-on-1s. He makes it look so easy, and it is simple. But a 2-on-1, he's just making it look so easy at the moment.
Even like little pass he gave to Caden Murley yesterday for his try, it seems so simple, but just the way he just straightens up, holds the line,
so composed.
And he took some hangers yesterday as well when they kicked deep to him. He was flying. He took some hanging.
He's always been unbelievable at that, but his decision making in attack and just holding his line, holding the defender, timing of the pass. There was a few like delayed passes which actually created the break. I think a big part of being an elite level player is in the top 2 inches of your head. And he's got that, and he's really showing that at the minute. And we can talk about England again, but it's a bit of a tried and tested conversation, a bit bored of it, but I don't think there's a better fullback in England at the minute. He's always been a great attacker, but perhaps not the most attractive to watch in terms of he's got a great kick on him. He just runs straight and hard. Not so fancy footwork, but he does the basics right. And if anything, there were question marks over his defense, but I think his defense is really improved as well.
I mean, even someone said, there's a stigma around the fact that Mike Brown doesn't pass. He's second in offloads in the Premiership this year?
Get
out of here.
Elite level decision making, like those offloads he's making and hitting as well, because we did criticise the team for overplaying and offloading to the ground or offloading behind a player or even forward passes, but he's just getting absolutely everything spot on.
I mean, I'll say it again. If he goes, I hope it's abroad. I'd like to see him. If he was going to go, I'd like to see him do what Robbo did and go and get a contract in America, Japan, wherever it is. I would hate with all of my heart and all of my soul to watch Mike Brown lining up against us in the Premiership, mainly because it means we'll probably lose the game because of how good he is, but also I just couldn't do it. But
I'd like to see him in top 14. I'd like to see him play in France.
Yeah.
If he's going to go. It looks like he will go, but he's playing the best rugby he's played.
Wherever he's going, I hope it's not north of...
top of his game. We can't lose into another English club. That'd be so sad.
I agree.
And on that Mike Brown piece with our senior players leading the way, we've got a huge test coming up against Bristol. We're going to need them to be on top of their game, as they have been the last few weeks. And we were very fortunate to catch up with Pete from Bears Beyond the Gate, which is a Bristol Bears fan podcast. We previewed the game, and this is what he had to say. So we're really excited to be joined by Pete from Bears Beyond the Gate, which is a Bristol Bears fan podcast. Looking ahead to our game in a week or so's time. Bristol are obviously a very daunting side up the top of the table. It'll be a real measure of where we're at. Superstars all over the park. I know we'd definitely take a few of their boys within our squad. Pete, the first question I've got for you is who are you wary of in the Quins team, and who would you look to sign if you had the power in your hands?
Well, first of all, it's really nice to talk to you boys. I've been following your progress recently. It's really good to see another excellent fan podcast out there. Yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I probably it's your three old guard that I think I'm worried about. I think Joe Marler, Danny Kerr, and Mike Brown. I mean, obviously you do have some fantastic box office players like Marcus Smith and Don Brandt, but any good team has to have a core, and I think I'm worried about the form of those three. I mean, particularly Joe Marler, because he, to me, looks like he's playing out of his skin at the moment. And although we have got a pretty solid front row, I mean, that's kind of where things can really happen and can set the tone of the game. So, I mean, I'd be quite happy to have Joe Marler, but then at the club. But then again, I'm not sure there's enough room for Joe Marler and Max Laheath in the same.
Definitely not
in the same social media sort of sphere. So I think there could be. I'd quite like to have them both. Actually, just to see. Yeah, that would be an interesting sort of combination. But no, joking aside, I mean, yeah, I think Danny Kerr is playing great. But I think we're good with scrum halves at the moment, although unfortunately Harry Randall's injured. Yeah, I mean, looking at some of your young players, I think, to be honest, Alex Dombrandt would be a great player to have. I mean, we've got the man mountain himself, Nathan Hughes, who has been brilliant for us this season and last season. But Dombrandt has got that pace, has got that vision, that and that kind of youthful exuberance. So yeah, I mean, I'd probably take Dombrandt. We don't really have a backup number 8 of that quality. So yeah, I'll take Marler for the power and the gags, and I'd take Dombrandt. I think.
I can't imagine whoever's in charge of the Bears media coverage, social media stuff. If they go, yeah, we've got Joe Marler coming to the club, you go, oh my god, I can't deal with him and Max Laheath in the same setup. We have to keep them at separate ends of the club.
Joe Marler's the kind of player when he's in a run of form, and it's pretty tricky to get him out of that form, as you say. And it will probably be the same with Danny and Mike. They're so experienced, so they know how to play not just the immediate 80-minute game, but the long game as well. One man you did manage to take off us actually is Carl Sinclair. To be honest, we don't follow Bristol as closely as we follow Quins, but we haven't seen too much of Carl. He seems to be either on the bench or not in the squad. What have you made of that signing? Is it a success yet, or is it too soon to say?
No, it's definitely a success, I think, but it was definitely a slow start for him, and I think it was quite widely reported that he found it difficult. I think the transition to Bristol, it was in lockdown as well, and this guy has been at your place. He's a been at Quins all his life. He's a London guy. Transforming himself to Bristol. You don't think that superstar players, have problems with that sort of lifestyle. But I think it was reported that he struggled to fit in. And I think the other thing that Bristol did was that they bedded him in slowly, and they focused on his scrummaging and and didn't kind of expect him to be doing all these amazing carries straight away. And I think before he went off to England, he was starting to hit his straps quite a lot. And there was a couple of games just before the internationals where he was starting to unleash a little bit. Unfortunately, he ended up swearing at Carl Dixon, so that didn't help. Yeah. But I think he's a slow burn for Bristol, but I think he will be a really good signing. And I think having people like him who've got international and Lions experience around the club is a really, really good thing. And I think our club is probably sensible enough to know how to manage him, and I'm sure Pat Lam has got a plan for kind of putting his arm around him and stuff like that. So I'm kind of looking forward to him coming back, because I think he's played well in the Six Nations. He's looked really good. So yeah, I think there were doubts at the beginning. I think people think it's a lot of money for someone we're going to lose for half the season, but no, I think now we're all pretty happy about that.
I think the upside to Carl is that he's going to be an international for a long period of time. When you look at that try he scored in the World Cup, not many front rowers have that skill set that he has. And obviously he's young and he's raw, and his scrummaging will improve and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, he's a line at such a young age, and we were, obviously devastated to lose him. We know why we lost him, and we that's part of the game. That's part of professional sport. My next question was, as a fan, obviously, big fan of the club, do you ever look at an Exeter? Obviously, there are similarities with the way that you guys have been in the Championship, how you've now built into not just a powerhouse in English rugby, but you're now, up there with Europe's elite. Do you ever, I guess comparisons are an easy thing to do and sometimes a dangerous thing to do, but do you ever look at them and think, maybe we're doing this in a different way, or maybe we're doing this in a better way? And what do you think of the journey that you've made from the championship in, 2017-18, and now where you've become? And do you think that it's going to be, well, look, that's the path now, that's the benchmark, it should be domestic success and European success?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Exeter and us have got an interesting relationship. I mean, obviously they beat us in the championship final to get into the Premiership and basically never looked back. And they were 10 years in the building. And then we kind of wallowed around in the championship. We had a variety of coaches and players come in. We got up to the Premiership, got relegated. Of course, he then, brought Pat Lam in. Pat Lam came in when we were in the championship. So Pat Lam came in, on a long-term plan. So he had a year in the championship to kind of put his plan together. He brought in some big players. So we had Ian Madigan, we had Steve Luatua, who played in the championship.
Mental that, isn't it? Luatua played championship rugby.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, we watched some of those games and it was crazy, but we didn't have it our own way the whole time. So it was a learning process. Now, clearly now we've kind of accelerated to probably a position that we're probably 2 years too early there, to be honest. I think Pat Lam's talked about a 5-year plan. He's improved players, but has given us a core, but has sprinkled it with all this stardust and used our ability to get a couple of marquee players in. And there's a myth that we're money bags, Bristol, we must be breaking the salary cap as well, but we're not. We're well under it. And he's explained that in clear detail about how he's done it. Now, that is where I think we have the similarities with Exeter, is because we're building a vision from the below, and we've got a way of doing things, and then everything slots into it. So players will come in. We won't just sign anybody. Like, we'll never have a Danny Cipriani at our club.
And I think that's a really good point. It's now, obviously, you mentioned that maybe you're 2 years early, and I think is a great point, having respect for Exeter, because I think everyone in England has respect for Exeter and the way they do things. And Rob Baxter is one of the best men in rugby. But it's interesting that you say that you're 2 years early. And I guess the difference now for you guys is, can it be, although maybe it's a couple of years too soon, can it be sustained for 5 or 6 years? Can you be the powerhouse of English rugby? Can you be a Leicester from, their glory days? Is it going to be like that? And I suppose that sort of draws us on to, looking more closely at this season. What do you think will end? Where do you think you'll end up? I mean, I think we're pretty comfortable in saying you'll finish in the top 2, but in Europe, what would you class as a successful season? Is it all about silverware, or is it continuing that sort of progression?
I think where we are now, we're living in dreamland, to be honest, the fans. I mean, we'd be disappointed now if we don't get into the playoffs, obviously. I think we'll be in the first 2. I think we've got every opportunity to win the first ever title that Bristol could have had this season. And I think Pat Lam is really keen on Europe as well. And I suspect that I just think, actually, going back to our game, I'm wondering whether he might rest a couple just to be ready for Europe, because I think we've got Bordeaux, which is obviously we've got Bordeaux in the knockout. We've beaten already just last season. And so I don't know. I mean, I can't even believe I'm talking to you about the fact that we might win the Premiership and do well in the Heineken Champions Cup. But yeah. I mean, that's the kind of testament to how far we've come. But I genuinely think that when you look at some of the investment that's gone into the infrastructure of the club, the stadium is unbelievable. We've got this new training ground. They call it the High Performance Training Centre. That looks
incredible.
Looks incredible. And that's going to, whatever we do, we're going to attract players to want to come to that. The only
certainly a long side from Surrey Sports Park.
Yeah, I mean it is crazy. But the only thing that can kind of derail it is if the wheels come off at some point. Pat Lam leaves, the whole thing falls apart, and we're left with a load of kind of like a white elephant and a load of players depart. Who knows? I think I do think we genuinely have got a chance to be at the top of English rugby for a long time.
I think a big part of the battle that we're going to have with each other is going to be the battle of the senior players, and the Joe Marlers, the Mike Browns, the Danny Cares, who have been in such good form for us going up against your Luatuas. And if Dave Atwood's playing, I think he's playing some of the best rugby he's ever played. You've got Piatau, obviously. can play fullback, I imagine you'll have Malin's back for it. But if he's in the team as well, some of your senior heads could be really important. So I think that will dictate the result for me is which senior players are going to step up and really control the game.
I think thinking about Joe Marler, if he's loose head, isn't he? So if you had Joe Marler against John Afoa, that would be box office. I mean, people buy tickets
Got to get them mic'd up.
That. Yeah,
you need to get them mic'd up. That scrum. Yeah,
it would just be the best. So
yeah,
and you mentioned Dave Atwood. Actually, I'm glad you mentioned him. He's a Bristol-born guy, and this is the interesting thing: is that Pat Lam came in and he said he's got 3 pillars. He wants Bristol to be at the top of the tree in domestically in Europe. He wants Bristol players playing for England or Wales, and he wants homegrown players coming through. So that's his he calls them the 3 pillars. So there is that kind of that vision that is behind, and people say, oh yeah, buy Randrandra and you buy Nualago and stuff like that. Yeah, we're gonna, we'll buy players if we see them and make them better. But I'd be disappointed if there wasn't that core of Bristolian, well, I say Bristolians, but people like Callum Sheedy and Yowen Lloyd who've
through the academy
nicked them from Wales, but they've come up through the academy and so on. So that's why I'm quite excited. I think our academy is good. And I just think it will be a case of when Steve Luatua goes back to New Zealand or Charles Pearson goes back, we'll be kind of adding in, it'll be like a big jigsaw that will be just like a rolling jigsaw that just gets bigger and bigger.
With that said, the final question we've got for you is the match prediction. How do you see it going? Do you see it being a tight contest? And if you've got a score prediction for us, we'd love to hear it.
Well, obviously, I won't be allowed back on my podcast if I don't say Bristol are going to win, and I think we will. But I think it will be a really good game of rugby. I mean, it's easy to say it will be very open game of rugby, but I do think, like you said before, I think up front is going to be an interesting. It'll set the tone, I think, early on about how the game will go, and I think. I mean, I was just thinking about your game recently against Sale. You didn't. You just had you were kind of under the pump a little bit from their kind of their monstrous pack, but you kind of picked them off with, I think it was 3 breaks, 3 tries, and suddenly, and that's clinical. What I'm worried about. I mean, I think you might be put under the pump a little bit, but when you get it in broken play, I mean, if there's broken play, it could just become some sort of basketball game of stuff, which would be fantastic for the punters to watch. It'd be nerve-wracking for us as fans, both sides, to watch it. So I think there'll be tries. I think eventually it'll open up. I would say, I'm rubbish predict. I always get it wrong. I'm going to say it'll be something like, let's go to 25-23 to Bristol.
Any bonus points?
I don't think it'll be that close. I reckon Quinn's going to win by 30. Personally, it'll be a bonus point. It'll be Tyrone Green to score twice, Marcus Smith man of the match, and that's the way it's. Well,
you asked me about bonus points. I think you'll get a losing bonus point, but whether or not we'll get a try bonus point, I think we might actually. What's that? Have I got enough points there for a try bonus point? Yeah,
just.
Well, why don't we? Let's be positive. Let's say that both teams get try bonus points. Which is possible. It's definitely possible. Yeah.
No, both teams will.
Disagree. Quinns will get the bonus point, and Bristol are going to be Bristol are going to be. Well, look, Paul. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm worried now, but yeah. No, I think I've got to go for a narrow Bristol win, but both teams score at least 4 tries, and Joe Marler and John Afoa have some sort of shenanigans, and then Max Laheath dives in as well, and it's kind of some sort of surrealist thing happens, and then both clubs get promoted on social media, and
another viral moment. Yeah, another viral moment.
Yeah, like I say, for me, it's Quinns by 25 and a winning and a 4-try bonus point. But that's what do I know? Anyway, Pete, thanks so much for coming on. It's been class, and we've been really lucky to get some guests on and speaking to other fan podcasts like yourself. It's only going to do well for us, and we really enjoy having the chats. So really appreciate your time, and fingers crossed in the next few weeks we get a bit more idea about where both sides are at leading into the day. And like I said, I'm sticking with the fact that Quinns are going to win by a bonus point and 25 points. So we'll see what happens.
We'll see you at Twickenham then.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see you there in May. Really nice talk to Pete. He's clearly a very, very passionate Bristol fan, and I got a little bit punchy with the with the score predictions at the end there, but no, I'm confident. After we just put 60 points up on Gloucester, let's go down there, let's go pump them, and try and see if we can get in that top 2. Anyway, that's all we've got time for. We'll do again another quick plug on the socials at Harlequins Pod. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, wherever you get your podcast. Harlequins Podcast. Get out there, go and listen to us. And then obviously we've got the Full House Challenge is still going. We're trying to fill Twickenham Stadium. So Will, as we're just finishing up this, should we bang out some squats?
Let's do it. Yeah,
let's do it. All right, I got about 10 in me. Thanks for listening, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed the weekend as much as we did. We've got a lot to look forward to next week, and hopefully Bristol is another good win. Catch you soon, everyone. Will, take it easy, mate.
Cheers, mate.
Bye-bye.